Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be working on spinal rolls. Spinal rolls are one of my favorite movements because it's kind of a movement that unlocks all kinds of other cool things that we get to do with our body. A lot of, just introducing rolling patterns, especially things on the floor. Thing with spinal rolls takes a good amount of spinal mobility with spinal core stability. And there's a decoupling of the hips and the spine, and then the spine within the spine that we have to work on in order to really unlock the ability to get a good spinal roll. And the goal of the class is really not just to do a spinal roll. Most people can do a spinal roll. It's to develop a really smooth roll. I want to feel each segment of my vertebrae interacting with the floor seamlessly. I don't want clunkiness. If I bring it into larger movement patterns, more, think of parkour where you're doing tumbling. Clunkiness leads to injury. So the goal is to really build the smoothness of the movement, which again will unlock a whole nother area of movement that we get to do with our bodies. So let's get started. So we're going to start in a standing position, getting feet about hip width apart. I want to be nice and grounded, both heel through the balls of the feet. We're going to start with some crocodile breath, making nice big C shapes with our hands, placing hands below rib cage, above the hip bones. Again, thumbs pressing into that low back musculature, index fingers wrapping around, feeling into the abdominal musculature, palms pressing into the side so that we feel that side body musculature. We're going to take nice inhales in through the nose, out through the mouth. As we inhale, the goal is to try to feel that abdominal wall expand out in a way like a crocodile or like we're inflating a balloon. And I want that breath to move not just forward into the belly, but also out through the side body and into that low back. So we'll take a good 5 to 10 nice slow breaths. Again, slow inhale. Start with a small inflation, and with each breath, we're seeing if we can build that inflation a little bit bigger. As you exhale, feel that navel draw up and in towards your spine, and you can slightly cinch your hands in a little tighter in order to create more resistance for that next inhale. And as you breathe in and out, notice the balance of that breath and how it fills that space. Do you notice it filling more through the belly? Can you feel it moving evenly to the right side and to the left side? Or can you feel it evenly to the right, that right side low back or that left side low back? Does it move more to one side of the body than it does to the other? Is there a little asymmetry in that breath? We'll get another 1 or 2 breaths in. Let the hands relax. We're going to continue with that breath, but now we're going to start working into our pelvic tilts. As we inhale, we're going to allow that breath to move a little bit more into the belly. Pelvis is going to start to tilt anteriorly. We're going to get a bit of a sway in our low back. Exhale, we're drawing that navel up and in, and we're scooping our tailbone forward. And start slow. I'm noticing a little low back tightness, especially as I go anterior. It's a little tighter than usual. Exhale, as I get into that scoop, it's a little bit of a stretch. It's a little bit more sensitive going into lumbar extension, which is that inhale versus lumbar flexion. So kind of notice which direction does it feel tight, tense, more so than the other. And I want to see how big I can make that scoop. Imagine that you're taking your tailbone and you're trying to touch something out in front with it, really scooping with it. On that inhale, filling up, seeing how much can you stick that tail out through the back, getting a nice big sway in the low back. We'll come back up to our starting position, and now we're going to get into shoulders. So arms are going to be down to the side, palms are spiraling as far up towards the ceiling as we can, and we're spreading those hands wide. Now I want to start feeling those shoulders down and back. We're going to shrug straight up, and we're going to allow we're going to spiral the palms, thumbs down, allowing the shoulders to round and roll over the top. And then we're reaching to the floor, trying to get that nice big stretch through the upper back. As I exhale, inhale, shrug, rolling the shoulders, spiraling the palms up towards the ceiling, and then reaching down. It's kind of like I'm moving over my body on each side. I'm reaching to the floor, shrugging up, spiraling, and reaching to the floor. As I open up, palms to the ceiling, I'm really trying to externally spiral those palms up as much as I can. I want to feel that nice big stretch across the chest. I also want to notice, how does this feel in the shoulders themselves? Do I feel more tightness and tension on the right side or the left side? And now we're going to bring pelvis and shoulders together. So as I start, palms up, shoulders pressed down and back, pelvis is going to be forward. I'm in my belly, nice inhale breath. As I exhale, shrug and scoop, doing basically a nice big cat cow. Inhale. As I open up, chest to the ceiling. Exhale as I nice big scoop. And one last cue, I don't want the head getting a whole lot of movement. Find a point on the wall straight out in front, focus your eyes on that point, and keep your head isolated on that point. See how much you can feel your spine move with your head maintaining that nice focused point out in the distance. Good. All right. Now we're going to come all the way down to the floor. Getting into it, starting in a nice wide V-sit. And I want to start with kind of an assessment of V-sit to feel deep into those hip sockets. So my legs are as wide as I can comfortably get them. Knees, I'm actively reaching down to the floor. Feet, I'm actively pulling those toes back, like I'm trying to touch my shins. Hands are coming down behind the hips, grounding through those palms, spiraling the elbows back. Feel the shoulder blades press down to the floor. And we're going to focus on those kneecaps. I want to inhale as my feet are straight up to the ceiling. Exhale as I rotate internally, seeing how close can I get my kneecaps towards the floor. Inhale back to center, and then externally, how close can we spiral those kneecaps to the floor? And again, I want to keep those knees actively reaching to the floor and the feet actively pulling back. And notice, how does that feel deep in that hip socket? How far are you able to go external to internal? My hips are a little tight today. Tightness in my hips, tightness in my low back. This is that hips and low back get coupled together. In order to get the spine more mobile as well as stable, we need to decouple the hips, get them moving a little bit more separate from each other instead of being locked together. So now that I got a decent idea how my hips are feeling, we're going to change positions. We're going to get into our frog position. So coming to hands and knees. Knees are going out wide. Feet are staying close together. We're going to start with the toes untucked. So my ankles are relatively flat to the floor. I want the knees as wide as you can comfortably get them. Taking a nice inhale into that crocodile breath. On the exhale, we're going to allow our hips to sink between our heels. Inhale, coming back forward. As we exhale and sink, imagine you have a tail and you're turning that tail lightly up towards the ceiling. And going slow with our breath. It's nice exhale as we sink into it. And then a nice slow inhale as we come back forward. If that's feeling pretty good, then we can drop down to our elbows and do the same thing. This might help us get a little bit deeper into the hips. It also adds a little bit of a different angle. I want this to feel good and juicy, not stressful or painful. If it's painful, then you need to back off. Once we get about 3 to 5 breaths, we're going to come back up to our hands. And now we're going to tuck our toes. And the primary toe that's going to be tucked is the big toe on each foot. And we're going to do all the same stuff. Nice inhale at the top. Exhale as we allow the hips to sink to the heels. Also feel that weight of your hips load into your big toe joint. You should feel some stretch in that big toe and maybe a little bit into the arch of the foot. Inhale as we come back forward. And as you're going into that big toe, notice, is it tighter, stiffer on the left big toe or the right big toe? My left big toe feels stiffer than the right big toe does right now. And again, if that's feeling pretty good, we can drop down to elbows and do the same thing. We can lightly turn that tailbone up to the ceiling as you're sinking into it. And after about 3 to 5 reps, we're going to come back up to our hands. We're going to untuck those toes. We're going to drop into light tension. I don't want to get into heavy tension into the hips, just a little bit of a drop. And now we're going to focus on ankles, lifting those ankles lightly up to the ceiling. So nice exhale. I'm lifting my right ankle, seeing how high can it go without going into pain. Inhale as I bring it back, and then exhale as I go with my left. Ooh, and that left hip is tighter than the right hip is on this. So I want to go slow. I want to move into that juicy nature of the stretch without forcing it, and see if I can encourage a little bit smoother movement, and maybe I can get a little bit more range of motion as well. Once we get about 3 to 5 reps, we're going to come back to our light little sink back just to kind of get a few more reps in, moving in and out. I feel like I can get a little bit deeper into the hips comfortably. And then we're going to slowly shift back into our V-sit. Get a nice wide V. You might notice that you get a little wider on your V now that we've added a little bit of mobility into the hips. Knees are actively reaching to the floor. Feet are pulling back towards the shins. Palms are grounded. Elbows spiraled out and away. Tall chest, packed shoulders. And we're coming back to those knee rotations. Nice exhale as we rotate out and away. Inhale as we come back to center and in. I have a decent amount more range of motion than I did the first time doing this, which is why I like kind of assessing my V-sit, doing some movements, and then coming back and seeing if I can get better mobility. So I think I've probably improved it a significant amount. My V-sit felt really tight this morning. In fact, I'd say I probably doubled the range of motion from that first set. Now, as we get into that V-sit, we're going to start getting into our ankle flossing. So as you externally spiral the knees, we can then point the toes as we internally spiral the knees, and then we're pulling the toes back. I want to feel that nice, it feel kind of like a floss through that ankle. The more you're able to point the toes as you reach, and then spread and open the toes as you pull. I want to make sure that we're not getting any cramping or Charlie horse at the arch of the feet. So keep it light, but the more we're able to get that point and flex, the more you're going to get that flossing effect through the ankle. Once we get about 5 circles in one direction, we're going to reverse direction and do the same thing. Then we'll come back to the starting point of our V-sit. We're going to bring hands off the floor, and we're going to get into some light folds. I want to continue to keep the knees actively reaching down and the feet pulling back. I want to keep hands square with my shoulders as much as possible. Start with a nice forward fold. Inhale at the top. Nice exhale as those hands slide forward. Inhale as it brings us back up. As we get into that fold, I want to make sure that I'm not dropping my head straight to the floor or dropping the chest. I want to keep that spine nice and tall. Exhale, hands are just kind of sliding. I'm just seeing how far can they slide. Inhale as I bring it back. As we're getting into this, we can now start to move a little bit off center. However, as I move off center, I still want to keep hands and shoulders squared together. So I have to rotate from my shoulders in order to change the direction of my hands. And then I want those hands reaching evenly, a little bit to the right, off center, and then a little bit to the left, off center. By going side to side and keeping those shoulders square, we're going to feel, is there a difference in tension through the back line of the left leg or the back line of the right leg? We're also going to be able to feel into that low back area. If one side low back is tighter, it's going to make it harder to get that hand to stay square and reach in one direction compared to the other direction. So we can assess the back line of the legs and that low back at the same time. And we can slowly start to open up how far off center we're coming, reaching closer and closer to the heels. I'm tighter on that left side. Got a little bit more range as I reach to the right. Whoa, reaching to the left's tighter. And it's tighter. I feel it more in my right side low back, preventing me from going. I also feel it more in my right adductor, preventing me from getting this reach. And then I also feel it a little bit in the back line of the leg. And those are important because if I'm feeling them paired together in a movement, that means that those tension patterns are paired together in other movements as well. And that can be a very important or useful thing to know, especially if we're seeing some problems in other areas of our movement. All right, now we're going to get into our shin box position. I'm starting out in my left side shin box. Left knee is forward. My left hand is coming down to the floor just outside the hip. Grounded palm, spiraling that elbow out and away so that I feel that shoulder blade pack. Nice tall spine. My weight is shifted over to my left hip. Right hip, I want off the ground. I want it to be free to move. We're going to start with our knee openers, continuing to get into that hip socket. Nice exhale as we lift and open that knee up to the ceiling. Inhale as we bring it back down. And since we've already done a good amount of hip mobility, these should feel pretty good if this is the first time doing this knee opener. compared to if we were to start with this. Usually this is a really tight, stiff movement for me. Feels pretty good, at least on my right hip, which is my less tight hip. Once we get 3 to 5 reps, we're going to slowly transition to the other side. Again, grounded palm, spiraled elbow, packed shoulder, tall spine, opposite hip off the floor. Nice inhale, exhale, slow opening up that hip. Now this knee is tighter, or this hip is tighter. My knee is not quite going up as high, but again, it's the first time I'm doing this movement today, and it feels pretty good compared to when I usually do it for the first time, largely because of the V-sit and the frog position. But this side of my shin box is noticeably tighter than the other side of my shin box. So after 3 to 5 reps, we're going to come back to the other side. Getting grounded palm, spiraled elbow, packed shoulder. Now I want to get that nice breath into that back bowl. I want to feel, think of that breath like a weight, or like you're inflating a bowling ball. So as that bowling ball inflates, it gets heavier and heavier and sits into that back hip, reaching that hip down to the floor. But I want it to reach to the floor without shifting our weight onto it. So my weight is still on my left hip, but the breath draws that back hip down to the floor. Then as I exhale, I'm lifting that hip up, moving it forward and scooping into it. I want to try to get as straight through a rib cage, through that hip, through the knee. I want to get into as much hip extension as I can, and I want to feel that tailbone scooping like I'm trying to touch something off in the distance with the very tip of my tailbone. The more I can get that scoop extension, the more I'm going to feel the glute contract in the back. Inhale. I want to see how close can I get to the floor. Can I touch the floor without shifting my weight? Exhale. How much extension can I get? How far does that hip travel from the floor into extension? Once we get 3 to 5 reps, we're going to slowly shift to the other side and do the same thing. Grounded palm, spiraled elbow, packed shoulder, tall spine, weight is shifted over. Inhale into that bowling ball. Feel the weight of that ball sink into the hips. Exhale, hip lifts up, moves forward, and actively scooping that tailbone like you're trying to touch something. Like if you put your hand, you're trying to touch your hand in front of your tailbone. And notice, how does this hip travel compared to the other hip? Again, this is the tighter hip for me, although it feels better than it usually does, largely because of the mobility we've already done in the hip, but I'm not quite getting to the floor as much, just barely off, and little tight going into that extension. Got to work a little harder on this side in order to get that glute engagement. And because it feels tighter on this side, I'm actually moving into it a lot slower, slowing down my breath to give myself a little bit more time to focus on smooth. How smooth can I get, and can I activate into it fully in both directions? How smooth can I fill that back bowl, feel it low, reach down to the floor, exhale into that active scoop. Then we'll switch back to the other side. And we're going to start with that same breath into that hip, filling up that back hip. On the exhale, as we lift and scoop, I want to lock in that back hip into a scoop, feel that active glute. And now we're adding in our reach with rotation. And this is where I want to imagine I got a piece of bread and I want to share it with my buddy who's straight through my knee. So I'm reaching straight through that knee, seeing how far can I extend my fingers out. Inhale, I'm bringing it all the way back in to that back hip. Feel that back hip load with that breath. Exhale, lift, scoop, feel that back hip lock in first, and then spiral into our reach. As I reach, I want to avoid reaching with my shoulders. So I don't want my shoulders moving forward on my hips. I want to spiral around that loaded back palm. I'm grounded through that my left hand. I'm spiraling around this shoulder to see how far can I rotate to extend those fingers. And I really like to kind of feel that back knee driving a little bit into the floor to help get that scoop. So at this point, it's how far can I reach that back knee on the floor and extend into those fingertips, getting that nice wringing out of the spine effect. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Now, whichever hip is tighter, you're probably going to find that the rotation is also tighter. And again, it's because these movements get coupled together. This is where the hip and the spine lock together to restrict movement. That's it's a stability strategy, and there's usually a reason that our body does it. So we're trying to untangle that strategy and provide better stability. So nice inhale into that back bowl, exhale, scoop, actively lock in that back hip, and then continue to spiral as we reach through the knee, extending the elbow and toes. This is much tighter in the rotation for me than the other side. My left hip is tighter going into extension, and then I also feel, oh, that is tighter right there. Nice, big, juicy stretch. I feel it largely in my low back, which is where I was feeling some tightness and tension in our first pelvic tilts on that lumbar extension. Oh, and each one it feels good. I can feel it opening up, and I'm getting a little bit more range as I go. I'm not forcing it though. I'm moving slow and allowing my body to acquire that movement. I don't want to force it. All right, we're now going to change positions, getting into our quadruped. Nice spread hands, grounded palms, extended elbows fully without locking. And we're going to tuck the back toes. We're going to get into a little bit more foot mobility. So I want to especially feel that big toe tucked underneath as much as you can. We're going to inhale as we rock forward. We're exhaling as we feel the hips sink to our heels. Now, just like our frog stretch, I want to imagine we have a tail, and as I sink back, I'm lightly turning that tail up to the ceiling. And I want to feel the weight of the hips, specifically at the big toe joint and into the arch of the feet. And I want to go slow with the breath and start to notice, how does that left big toe feel compared to the right big toe? My left big toe is tighter than my right big toe is right now. It's not always the case, which is why I want to assess. It's usually my right big toe that is tight. So the fact that the left big toe is tighter is a good thing for me to kind of notice now, because it means I can do some work on it. Once we get about 5 breaths in, we're going to turn the heels out as far as we can so that we can get tucked underneath all the way out to the pinky toes. If you can get that pinky toe tucked underneath, inhale as we go forward, exhale as we sink hips to heels. Now we're feeling into those outside toes and lateral arch of the feet. And again, notice if it feels different on the left side compared to the right side. Again, my left foot feels tighter and more. It's not a huge difference, but it's definitely noticeably tighter out all the way out to that pinky toe. I actually feel that pinky toe is really tight and restricted compared to the right side. Now in the next one, we're going to sink to light tension. I don't want to go all the way back. I want to just barely be in tension. But now we're going to do windshield wipers with the heels. We're going to roll the heels from out to in, rolling on across that big toe and then all the way back out to the pinky toes. And as we roll into that big toe joint, that big toe might be a little sensitive, so I want to make sure we're not moving into pain. But notice, how does the right big toe feel compared to the left big toe? And if this is feeling good as you're rolling back and forth, you can slowly start to let more weight into your hips to load the feet a little bit more, as long as we're not pushing into pain. We'll come back to our starting point. If we need to, you can untuck the toes, kind of give them a little bit of a rest. But I want to keep those toes tucked. And now we're going to get into our arm spirals. So I'm going to focus on elbow pits. I want nice, make sure hands are nice, spread, wide, well grounded. And we're going to start to spiral elbow pits. I'm turning them in like I'm trying to spiral them back towards my feet. And then I'm spiraling forward, seeing how much can I get the elbow pits to face forward towards the head. I want to inhale or exhale as they spiral in. I want to inhale as they spiral forward. Now, as we're spiraling through the elbows, we're going to start to connect the shoulder blades to it. So as I spiral forward, I want to feel those shoulder blades pack down towards the hips. They're going to downwardly rotate towards our hip pockets. As we exhale, we're spiraling those elbow pits forward. We're going to allow the shoulder blades to round over the top of the shoulders so that we start to get this rounded upper back. We can even lightly push into the floor so that you can start to feel some stretch between the shoulder blades and the spine. Inhale as we spiral elbow pits forward. And you can kind of imagine that as you're spiraling forward, you're pulling your chest down to the floor with that shoulder blade packing onto your ribs. I want to feel this shoulder really tighten up. It's almost like you're taking a screwdriver and screwing the shoulders in and then unscrewing them, which is allowing you to get that rounded upper back. Good. I want to finish with elbow pits forward, feeling those shoulder blades locked in, and I want to maintain locked shoulders. And now we're going to get into our pelvic tilts. And if you're feeling that your wrists are getting fatigued through this, it's okay to come up, roll them out, take little breaks. I don't want you to overly stress your wrists. So elbow pits are spiraled forward, shoulder blades are packed, toes are still tucked. We're going to bring that inhale breath into the belly, allowing the pelvis to tilt down to the floor, getting a sway in our low back. And then exhale, as we draw the navel, we're scooping. But I want to maintain the position of my shoulders. So I'm keeping those shoulders locked in so that I'm only moving up into that low back. I want to feel this nice little stretch here as I scoop. I want to make sure that we are avoiding any pinch or pain. So if this is a tight, restricted, and uncomfortable movement, go small and go slow. But with each one, we're seeing if we can slowly squeeze a little bit more range of motion out without increasing levels of discomfort. From the beginning to now, I have a good amount more mobility in my low back. Still feels a little tight. Although at this point, extension feels a lot better. I feel tighter in flexion as I scoop. This is where I'm feeling it now. And now we're going to unleash the elbows with the hips. So in our starting position, inhale, elbows are spiraled forward, big sway in the back. Exhale, we're scooping and spiraling those elbow pits internally, pushing into the floor. Feel that nice stretch between the shoulder blades down into that low back. Inhale brings us all, everything, chest drops to the floor as those shoulder blades pack. See if you can feel that nice big spiral through the shoulders, connect all the way into that low back with the hip. With each one, as you get, especially at that top point, as you scoop and press, see if you can feel one nice big continuous stretch from the shoulders, between the shoulder blades, all the way down into that low back. And we'll come off the hands, and we're going to change into our inverted position. So I'm now in an inverted sit, bringing hands just to the hips or slightly behind, grounding the palms. We're going to work those same arm spirals that we just did in our quadruped. So elbow pits are going to spiral out and away. As they do so, I want to feel the shoulder blades slide down the rib cage. As my chest opens up, my sternum is reaching straight up to the ceiling. This is my inhale phase. Exhale, elbow pits are spiraling in. Shoulder blades are releasing and rounding up towards the ears. Let's see if we can feel that nice stretch between the shoulder blades again. Inhale, I want to feel that spiral outward. Shoulder blades are packing down and back. Nice tall lift. See if you can feel that stretch or opening up across the front top of the chest. We're also trying to bring that breath up into the clavicular area. On that inhale, exhale, rounded forward. Now let's add in our pelvic tilts. As I inhale, spiraling out, chest gets tall, pelvis is also slightly tilting forward. We're not going to get a big sway in the back in this position, but the pelvis is still rocking forward. And then as we exhale, actively scoop that pelvis as we round. See if you can feel a nice big continuous length stretch from that low back all the way across shoulders. And then as we inhale, getting tall, spiraling out, lightly pressing down into the floor. Can you feel your spine get tall and that nice big opening through the chest? Good. Now we're going to go ahead and let our feet cross. So we're in a nice cross-legged sit, but I want to maintain palms. Grounded palms, elbows are spiraled out. We're going to do some neck mobility, but I want to make sure that the shoulder blades are downwardly pressed. I don't want the shoulders rising up while we're doing neck mobility because it can kind of take away from the work and the emphasis on the neck. So palms grounded, elbows spiraled, downward press. Let's start by checking our blind spots. Nice inhale in through the nose, exhale as we look over our right shoulder. Inhale as we come back to center, and exhale as we look over our left shoulder. Left side is tighter, less range of motion. Now, as I turn my head, I want to reach more with my chin, and I'm seeing how far can I get my chin the edge and crest of my shoulder. What I want to avoid is that I turning and reaching with my forehead where my head tilts. I want to maintain a tall spine, not a tilted head. So see if you can really focus on reaching with your chin. That should get a little deeper mobility stretch into the neck. And again, I feel that left side is tighter. So now we're going to go, we're going to work some up and down, some guys to the ceiling, eyes to the floor from that end range position. So I'm going to start on that tighter side, which is my left side. I'm turning that chin as far as I can, and I want to actively continue to reach with my chin over the shoulder. And I'm going to let my eyes move down to the floor, looking down as far as I can, and then looking up to the ceiling as high as I can. But I want to continue to actively turn that chin over the shoulder as much as I can without going into discomfort or pain. Once we get 3 to 5 on that side, we're going to go to the other side and we're going to do the exact same thing. Eyes moving down to the floor, moving up to the ceiling, actively reaching that chin over the shoulder. I'm also continuing to actively press down through the palms, keep those elbow pits spiraled out. I want to maintain downward pressure through those shoulders. I don't want my shoulders to start softening up. That's going to take away from what I'm working on in the neck. So I'm actively pressing down, maintaining a tall spine as I work up and down. Now, we're going to work diagonals from that end range up to the opposite end range down. So I'm going to start on I'm looking up and away to the right, and I want to take a diagonal to down and away to the left, and then back up. And again, I want to move from that chin. I'm saying, how far can I get that chin over the shoulders? I'm also using my eyes. My eyes are following where the path that I'm turning, looking where I'm turning towards. And then we'll do the same thing on the opposite side, going up and away to the left, actively reaching that chin, to down and away to the right and back. Notice if one side is easier to do than the other. And these are probably a little bit challenging just in their own right, especially if you're doing this for the first time. All right, now we're going to connect all those movements together, turning it into a nice big figure 8. So I'm going to start with up and away to the right. I'm moving down and away to the left. And then I'm going to go down and away left to up and away left, down and away right. And then up and away right, diagonal across, down. I want to lead with my chin. I'm continuing to try to keep that chin turned towards the shoulder and over the shoulder actively. That should maintain a good level of tension in the stretch, in the mobility of the neck. I want to make sure it is not stressful or painful. Once we do 3 to 5 in one direction, we're going to reverse directions. So I'm up and away to the right, now down and away to the left, diagonal up and across to the right, to the left, down and away to the left, and then diagonal upward across to the right. And again, keeping the shoulder blades downwardly pressed, reaching from the chin Noticing how smooth is this on both sides? Are you noticing that it's harder to move into one side of that figure 8 compared to the other side? Is it the left side that's tighter? Is it the right side that's tighter? Those are really important factors to bring into our neck mobility, paying attention to what's going on in our neck, because that's going to be something that's about going to have a relationship to what's going on into the low back, to the hips. Everything is connected. All right. So we're going to stay in our inverted sit. I'm now bringing my hands to my shins. And we're going to do a nice little kind of like spiral circle action around the shins. Hands outside the shins. I want palms up. Shoulder blades, chest is open. Shoulders are rounded, packed down and back. I'm going to exhale as I scoop, round shoulders, and reach, bringing the hands. Hands are going to move to the inside of the knee, thumbs down, reach as I scoop. Then they're spiraling out, palms up as I inhale to tall. And with each one, I'm seeing how much can I scoop, as if I'm trying to scoop and roll to flatten out my sacrum to the floor. But at the same time, I'm seeing how far can I slide my hands forward on my shins. And then inhale, I'm going up to tall. Feel those elbows pull back, downward press of the shoulder blades, nice open, tall spine. Exhale into that nice scoop. Inhale as we get nice and tall. Again, each one I'm trying to get a little bit more scoop from the tailbone. We're going to start working on roll downs next, but this is getting that active mobility of our lower back. It's also working that core control, lower core control for that low back, again, to help decouple the hips from the spine. So we're now going to stop reaching forward. We're going to keep the hands kind of on the shins, and this is a roll down. I want to inhale at the top, exhale, drawing navel into spine as I scoop, and I'm seeing, can we place the sacrum flat to the floor, and then inhale, come back up. On the next one, if we're able to get the sacrum to the floor, can I come down and can I touch my L1 to the floor and come back up? If I can get L1, now can I touch the L2? And come back up. And I want to be focusing on my feet. So I'm seeing how low can I go without my feet coming up off the floor. So if I can touch L2, can I then touch L3 and come back up? And we're going to work each vertebrae one at a time until we get all the way to the floor and all the way back up without those feet flying off the floor. I don't want to push the feet down. I want them to rest comfortably. Can we roll? And if this is as far as you can roll and the feet start to come up, then that is your end range for this movement. And we're just working that scoop, reaching into it, feel that core work. Inhale as we come back up. And you may notice some tension in that low back. It's working hard, trying to let go of all that that stability that it's been trying to maintain. It has to loosen up in order to get that lower core to be active and support instead. So if you're finding feet come up and you have a limitation in the movement, that is where you're at as a progression. And I would suggest working on this every day. And what you'll find is if you work on this every day for about 30 days, after 30 days, you should see a significant increase in that range of motion. Maybe you won't get all the way to the floor, but you should see a pretty big improvement in how close you get to the floor. And if you keep working on it longer, you should be able to get to the floor unless you have some biomechanical issues. Now we're going to come down onto our back. We're going to start with just a little bit of nice kind of happy baby type stretch. So bringing knees up, grabbing the kneecaps. Inhale, I'm letting the knees move forward so I get a little pull on my hands. Exhale, I'm using my belly button like a thumb to press my spine into the floor as I pull my knees in. And I'm kind of trying to peel my sacrum lightly off the floor to feel some stretch into that low back. Inhale as the knees come forward. I want to try to keep my shoulders and my head on the floor. If you find that shoulder and head need to be up, then I would put a bolster underneath them so that you can relax into the bolster so that you're not holding your head up stiff. If you feel a nice stretch in that low back, then you get to work into it a little bit, being juicy with it. Another thing we can kind of add in here is as you pull, lightly pull both knees towards your left shoulder and then lightly pull both knees towards the right shoulder. You'll feel that stretch a little bit more side to side of the spine on the low back. And that may give you some indication of some tension that's greater on the right side or the left side. Interesting is I'm finding a little bit more tension on that left side of the low back, which is not my normal pattern. It's usually the right side is more tense. Now we're going to start working on our reverse rolls. So arms are going to come up over our head. I want shoulders relaxed to the floor. So if this position you find your arms are up off the floor, you can bring them out into a little bit of a Y until they rest comfortably. I want to keep the knees tight, tucked. Heels are staying tight and tucked. We're going to inhale. We're going to let the knees go forward. Feel the belly kind of open up. We can even get a little sway in the low back where it's off the floor. But then as we exhale, we're using that belly button to flatten the spine into the floor first. And we're going to continue to pull from that belly to see if we can lift the sacrum off the floor. Inhale, we're going to let it go back forward. Exhale, see if you can slowly peel the sacrum and then L5 off the floor. And we're just slowly working to see how much can you peel each vertebrae one at a time off the floor without the head and the shoulders coming up. I don't want this lifting. Head and shoulders need to stay in contact. We're working in to see how high can you start to peel the hips off the floor. My low back is tighter today than usual. So I'm a little limited on this compared to where I'm normally at. If we can, what I want to pay attention to with the legs, a lot of people will start to extend the legs to try to use leverage of the legs to swing back. I want to keep it tight. So I'm really focusing into that lower core. But as we get the hips kind of over the chest, we can start to reach and extend the toes back like we're trying to touch the floor, as long as we're not putting pressure on the head or the neck. Now, just like with the roll down, wherever your range of motion is on this, where you're able to keep head and shoulders on the floor, that's the progression. Inhale, let that belly come up. Exhale, press the belly into the spine, flatten the spine, and then slow lift. And if you work on this every day for 30 days,
You're going to get stronger in that lower core. You're going to develop more mobility, especially with all the other mobility work we're doing. Mobilizing the hips and the spine to open things up, and then working this in order to develop that core control, you'll start to help smooth out these movements. Now that we have our roll down and our reverse roll, we can piece it all together into a spinal roll. So spinal roll is just as simple as rolling shoulders back up to the hips, nice and tall. I want to feel a nice smooth transition all the way through. Each vertebrae is able to touch the floor in both directions. What I want to avoid on this is clunkiness, where we go and we feel that clunk, especially low back. That generally means we're stiff in that low back. We don't have that mobility, especially in that lumbar mobility. This is a big movement to work on to improve, because again, it unlocks so many things, especially if we want to get into kind of fun little rolling patterns where we can roll through our shoulder all the way to our belly and back. If you have that kind of mobility, again, it unlocks so much different core work, or different just movement fun. Let's come back up to a standing position to finish. Take our time. We've spent a lot of time on the floor, so make sure you're not dizzy or lightheaded. If you are feeling a little dizzy or lightheaded, it's okay to stay on the floor or come to a nice seated position. We're going to finish with some crocodile breath, thumbs in the back, index fingers in the front. And again, I want to feel that balance and symmetry through that abdominal core. So allow the hands to cinch in on your exhale. Inhale, we're inflating that midsection like a balloon. I'm feeling a lot more expansion in that breath compared to the beginning. And the big thing I'm noticing is my shoulders feel a lot softer and more relaxed. I was noticing at the beginning, I was a little tense in the shoulders, especially on inhale. Shoulders kind of wanted to shrug and they didn't want to let go on the exhale. But shoulders feel a lot looser. And I feel like I have more balance and expansion through that abdominal wall. And hopefully you're feeling that as well, which would make this pretty positive session. If we can improve our breathing capacity, that means we did a lot of work. If your hips are tight, low back's tight, shoulders and neck are tight, you're not going to have access to your full breath. So to get access to the full breath means that we also did some significant work in those other areas too.